Hi everyone, my name is Monique.
And I'm Naveen from Before You Play.
And today we're going to be discussing our most anticipated games that'll be releasing at Essen Spiel.
Yes, Essen Spiel 2024 is upon us. It is in a couple days, and we unfortunately will not be in attendance this particular year. Hopefully we can go back next year for 2025. But we have previewed the preview list on BGG, which basically has all the different games that will be either being demoed or released at Essen Spiel. So what we're going to be doing today is discussing some of our top most anticipated games that we'll be releasing.
And, we usually add 10 games to this list, but as consolation, since we won't be there, we've made it 15.
Yeah. If you want to see all the different games that are going to be releasing at Essen Spiel 2024, we've linked the BGG preview list down below. But first, today's video is brought to you in part by One Last Fight from Hit Point Press.
Yes, One Last Fight is a roguelike, card-based role-playing game for 1 to 4 players in which players embark on a final journey to defeat their nemesis.
Or die trying.
In this collaborative storytelling game, players create not only their adventurers' backstories, but also the story of their nemesis. And together, they'll face a series of physical and personal challenges as they make their way to the nemesis' lair for one last fight.
Along the way, players will draw challenge and moment cards, which essentially represent the different obstacles, battles, and hardships that players must overcome. And these cards are part of a unique deck which change from game to game as players can deck build, having a new replayable type of scenario.
And these challenges can also earn players loot, resources, and gear in order to prepare them for the final fight. The game also offers a variety of characters and nemesis to choose from, along with diverse storytelling prompts and questions to keep the story in motion.
So if One Last Fight sounds interesting to you, this campaign is running live until the 31st of October, which you can check out the link in the description down below.
And thank you so much to Hit Point Press for sponsoring this video.
All right, so let's get into the list. Now, today we are going to be doing 15 different games as per the list. We are also saying no to any expansion. So these will all be standalone games, and these are all games that are listed as for sale at Essen Spiel.
Right. But of course, we do have some honorable mentions to start us off with.
Yeah.
Our first honorable mention is actually a revised version of a game that we already own, which is why it's an honorable mention. But I found it interesting that it's making a reappearance at Spiel.
I didn't anticipate this.
Yes. This is an abstract game that we actually still have our copy of, and it's called Majolica. This game was designed by Yu Wang,
I
believe, or Wang Yu.
Wang Yu?
And this is an abstract tile-laying strategy game that came out a few years ago, maybe like 2018.
I think so. It was one of our first Essens.
Yes.
It was released there. It was actually before we made any videos or even had the idea of making videos.
Made a channel, right?
Yeah.
And we rushed to try to be one of the first people to get it because we thought it was gonna sell out.
So at Essen, at least back then, you never knew what games were going to be the hot ones, how many copies they were going to have. Would they only have so many?
Exactly.
And if you don't get in line early, then it's gone.
It's gone. It'll sell out sometimes within the first 10 minutes of the show. So be warned for anybody who's going.
Yep.
And I thought that this game was going to be one of those, but right when we got there were like stacks and stacks of it.
Yeah.
So we rushed to it. But anyway, we still have it. And for anybody who's curious about the gameplay, it's a tile-laying game. It's been a while since we played it, but it is so brain-burny.
Yes.
We've been wanting to play it again and again, but we haven't made the time for it. Really? Because it's so brain burning.
Yeah, because of that brain burning. So I think the playtime says 40 minutes on the box. So I think it kind of scares us a little to have to go back into it. But we know it's definitely one that we want to keep in the collection.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's very unique. And I know that the revised version has revised gameplay as well. So I don't know exactly what the new version is going to be like. But anyway, just wanted to discuss Majolica because it's one that we still have.
The next honorable mention is what sounds to be a silly card game, a cooperative game called Babel. Now, this is based off of the Tower of Babel, but it's spelled a little different. It's spelled as if Babel, like your
B-A-B-L-E.
B-A-B-L-E. And so apparently what this game is everybody is trying to construct the Tower of Babel, but everybody who's working around the table to construct the Tower of Babel has various communication rules. So you have to be able to understand what somebody else's ability to communicate is in order to actually construct the tower, and you have a certain amount of rounds or a certain amount of time to actually get it done. I don't really know too much about the game. Actually, most of these games on the list, we don't know very much about.
Yeah, right.
But just that kind of silly idea of sitting around the table and not really knowing exactly how to communicate with your neighbors in order to get a task done sounds really fun.
It sounds very silly.
It does, yeah.
And on that note, we are also probably not going to have any photos of any of these games because they technically haven't even been released
Yeah,
yet.
that's it.
The next honorable mention, because we actually have quite a few for some reason this time around, is a game called The Yellow House.
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is a trick-taking game. Is it a two-player only
It's two-player
trick-taking
only,
game?
and it's like kind of trick-taking-ish.
Yeah, it's pitched as a trick-taking
Yeah.
game, but it's designed by Gionil, who is a known designer of trick-taking games. They've designed
Jekyll versus
Jekyll
Hyde.
versus Hyde, exactly. And the reason why this is an honorable mention is because we've actually already played it. It's available on Board Game Arena to play, and this is the first time that we heard about it, and all that was through Board Game Arena.
We actually heard about it through searching it on the BGG list. Anytime we see something marketed as like a two-player only trick-taking game, instantly we want to dive deeper into it.
Yes.
So diving deeper, we found out it's on BGA, and now we've played it.
We played it several times, and for anybody who's never heard of this before, the theme is that you are artists, like renowned famous artists.
I think you live with Van Gogh, and
okay.
yeah, and like one of you is
Specific
Van
artist.
Gogh, and the other one is a different artist.
Yes.
And you're arguing about the creation of art.
You're arguing about what the most important aspect,
Right, of
the most
creating
important
art.
topic of being an artist is.
Yeah.
And you're trying to have the last say. It is very abstract in terms of its theme,
Sure.
but it actually works. And
does.
it's a card game that has 4 suits, and each suit represents a different topic. And
Yeah,
you're
like
just
one is
trying
like
to
passion, money,
Yeah.
skill.
Right.
I can't remember the other one now.
And you're basically just going back and forth trying to completely shed your hand. So it's actually not a trick-taking game. It's
yeah.
really a card shedding, a
Correct.
hand shedding game. And for some reason, it's rated like a 6 on BGG.
It's rated really low. It's like rated like a 6.1 at the time of filming this.
But I love it.
We like it a lot.
Yeah, I love it. I actually
Yeah.
want to play the physical copy because the thing about playing on Board Game Arena or any other sort of online sites is a lot of things are automated.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it gets to your turn, the options are already laid out for you. You just click what the option is.
Right.
And so I feel like it does sort of take away from that decision making when you're in it, when you're actually playing the physical
when you're
copy
actually
of the game.
managing, truly managing
Yeah.
your hand, and you're like, these are my 3 options, but you have to come up with the 3
Yes.
options, because sometimes when the options are just given to you, you can clearly see like
Yeah, you can
that is a
see.
better option.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if we were going to Essen Spiel, this is definitely a game that I would pick up,
Mm-hmm.
and it is called Yellow House.
The Yellow House.
Oh, yes. The
The Yellow House, yeah. So the last one that we want to mention is it's Perspectives Blue. Now, Perspectives Blue,
Yes.
the reason why it's an honorable mention is because we have original Perspectives, which is Perspectives Orange now or Red now, maybe?
Yeah, the original is called Perspectives.
called Perspectives?
It's not like Pokemon Red and Blue, like.
Right.
But for some reason, the sequel, the second in the series,
Maybe
I
in
guess.
order to discern it on BGG when you make a listing,
Yeah.
it's like Perspectives Blue.
or
That's
maybe
how-
Blue will be a part of the mystery.
Maybe, who knows?
Anyway,
Yeah.
this is on our honorable mentions because it is technically a sequel to a game that already exists called Perspectives. And Perspectives is designed by Matthew Dunstan and Dave Neal. And it's basically a mystery game where at least the original one came with 3 cases
Scenarios,
that
yeah.
were somehow linked. And it's entirely card-based. But the thing with this specific mystery game is each player has their own set of cards. And the cards are all going to be clues to help figure out this case. But in order for us to solve it, you need to communicate what is on your card because you can't let other people see it.
Yes. So basically, it's called Perspectives
Mm-hmm.
because we all have certain aspects of the case from our unique perspective.
Right.
So that's what these cards are. Maybe it's like I have a fragment of a surveillance video. Maybe you have
And
a
have
fragment.
the other fragment.
Yeah,
But we
exactly.
need to be able to communicate what's on our fragment.
Right.
Because I believe you can only reveal like one of them or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we are going to probably do a review and maybe a Let's Talk Board Games episode down the road.
Mm-hmm.
We have played a couple of the scenarios in the original Perspectives.
But we haven't finished it
We
yet.
haven't finished it, but
Yes.
spoiler of the first 2, we really enjoy the game. So I'm assuming the third scenario that we're going to eventually play is going to kind of solidify that.
Yeah.
But Perspectives Blue came out before we could finish our
The
third,
original one.
original scenarios. So that's why it's on this list, because
Yes.
we enjoy it highly up to this point.
Oh, yeah. And I really, really, really want to play Perspectives Blue.
All right, let's get into the list. So we did talk about Trick Takers, 2-player only ones. And so number 15 on our list is another one of those types of games. It is called Lone Wolves. This is like I said, a two-player only trick-taking game where you are going to be trying to play out cards on your side of the board, kind of similar to Battle Line or Shot and Totten in that kind of way, where there's various different areas that you're trying to control so you can score points. Each area has a set of tokens that kind of give you bonuses whenever you play out to them. And so it's kind of it seems to be kind of an interesting kind of heady game where you're going to try to force your opponent to play to a certain area, and then you're going to try to find a way to usurp them and get the most amount of points.
Yes, this is a game that's published by Wonderful World Board Games, and it sounds interesting because there's trick-taking mixed with area control, as well as a dynamic trump. So the trump is constantly changing because of those territory markers.
Yeah, and you're not a big fan of area control games, but in a two-player style.
Yeah.
And it's like not
two-player
obtrusive.
style
Yeah.
with trick-taking. All of those things together has me very intrigued. So that is a game that we would definitely be picking up if we went to Essen Spiel. Yeah. All right, moving on to number 14. So this is another trick-taking game. I will say, for some reason,
we like
there are a lot of trick-taking games on this preview list. It's not going to be entirely made of them, but this next one is. This is a game that is being published by Amigos, or Amigo, sorry.
Yep.
And it is called 3 Chapters. And the reason why is because the game is played in 3 chapters, technically. It's a game where you are drafting cards.
That's chapter 1.
That's chapter 1.
Yeah.
And then you will be playing them trick-taking style.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
Yeah.
And then chapter 3 is where you score them, because all these cards have different scoring criteria that really depend on what other cards are with you, essentially. And that is the extent of our knowledge.
It's kind of like, I think from what I understand, it's a simple drafting game where it's like you get a hand, you pick one, pass it, and as things come, you take one and you just keep developing or building out your deck that you are then eventually going to play in a trick-taking fashion. From what I understand, there's not suits in this game, but it's just the value in the top left corner of the card. So it's not like spades, hearts, diamonds, not like that.
Yeah, they're all characters.
Characters, yeah.
I feel like they're storybook characters, and they have really interesting art. So if you'd like to look at the art, I would recommend checking out some of the pictures on BGG. We couldn't post them because we don't have ownership rights to them.
I think Eric Martin from BGG posted a little quick kind of snippet video of that. So if you want to check that out, you can check it out on the 3 Chapters page. All right, number 13 on our list. This is from Pile Up Games and designers Costa and Rolla, which are 2 designers that we really enjoy some of their games. We've recently played Moistero, as well as, of course, really enjoyed Cafe, which is a game that we've covered on the channel. This game is called Stevens. And so basically what's going on in this game is Portugal suffered an earthquake back in the 1700s.
You'll know this if you played Lisboa.
If you've played Lisboa, then you know that's the same kind of backdrop of the theme. And so players are tasked with trying to reconstruct the city by working in Stevens' glass factory, and we're basically trying to compete with each other to score the most amount of points.
We're trying to earn the most amount of prestige.
Yes.
We want to be the best glassmaker who works at Stevens' factory.
Yeah.
So, and I believe this is a historical figure who was really well known for making glass.
From the pictures we've seen online, the artwork looks really, really nice. It has that 60 to 120 minute playtime, medium weight euro. So
it looks like a sweet euro.
It looks like it would fit right on our shelf.
Yes,
so.
The more of Costa and Rolla's games we play, the more we feel, I guess, their genre in designing. And if you're looking for Euro-style games, we'd recommend checking out some of their games. Moistero, in particular, was a very Euro feel in a dice placement
It
game.
felt very like old school Euro, but just done in this time. So,
crunchy decision making. So I have high hopes for this one.
Yeah, same. So that is number 13. That is Stevens.
All right, moving on to number 12. This is another 2-player only card game, but I believe it is not trick-taking. So this is a game called Sunrise Sunset. It's published by Perro Loco Games, and it has an Egyptian theme to it. So the reason why it's called that is because of the 2 gods who bring up the sun and then bring up the night.
The night, yeah.
They have a perpetual battle where they alternate winning every day, as you probably can see. And so in this game, you're pretty much just trying to win control over the different territories on the board. I think there's only like 3. And you're playing cards from your hand that indicate the strength. It sounds very simple, but I'm intrigued by both the theme as well as the 2-player head-to-head feel of the game. So I'm very curious to know how crunchy that kind of a game is going to be.
We don't know too much about this one, but the artwork on it, like that box, like as you're scrolling through the list, it's like
eye-catching, for sure.
You got to go back and look at it like 3 times and be like, what is this? So I'm really, really looking forward to playing this one. They actually have a ton of games coming out.
Yes,
Pero
this
Loco
publisher,
games.
yeah.
Yeah, and they
do.
all look beautiful. So hopefully we can start to slowly acquire these ones and talk more about them in the future.
And that was our number 12, Sunrise Sunset.
Okay, our number 11. Now, this one's kind of interesting because there are 3 games that follow the same exact themes.
That we know of.
That we know
I think
of.
there might be more.
At least on the preview list from what we remember seeing, there was 3 games that all have the exact same theme, and that is for 1984.
Yes.
The George Orwell book, the dystopian book, if you are familiar with it. There's one of the games is basically you are taking on the roles of the thought police.
Yes.
And you're trying to, I guess, capture degenerates or or people who are thinking bad thoughts, if you know what I mean. If you've
Bad thoughts.
bad thoughts.
If you are familiar with
Normal.
this novel.
It's interesting because this one game, it sounds like you're taking on the role of the enemy, right? So like when you're reading 1984, no spoilers here, you're trying to root for the main character. But the thought police obviously is the kind of the counter to that. So I think it's kind of interesting that you're taking on the role of the antagonist versus as the protagonist in this particular game.
That's right. And your goal is to try to increase the party's power. And you don't want Winston to reach the Golden Country.
Right.
That is a bad thing in the game. So it sounds interesting. I don't know how the game is going to play out, but another game that has the same theme is actually designed by the same designer, and it's a solo game called Winston. But Winston is part of the title. And Winston is the main character of 1984. If you've never read the book, if you're interested in dystopian stories, that is like one of the
I think
main ones.
You finally not read it, but you
I
listened to the
audiobook, which
Yeah.
was excellent.
Yeah.
Such an interesting story. And I don't know what's going on, why there's so many of this theme that are being released right now.
We looked it up. It's not in the public domain in the U.S.
Not in North America.
Not until until 2040 or something like that.
Yeah, but it is in Europe. So I wonder if this game can even be brought over here. I don't know how that works.
Maybe not for sale here in the U.S., but if you went to Europe and bought it, then you can bring it over.
So anyway, our number 11 is more for the umbrella of all of the games that have the 1984 theme, because that is a theme that absolutely speaks to us both.
Yep.
And so I believe there's also another Reiner Knizia game that was themed that. But if you end up playing any of these games, let us know how they are.
So those are number 11, all those 1984 games.
Yes. All right, moving on to number 10. So this is a game published by De Veer and designed by Danny Garcia, and it is called Daitoshi. So in this game, I believe Steam is a really big thing. And creating things, producing things, or manufacturing, I guess, with Steam. And that is the extent of my knowledge about this world. You are sending workers out to a really beautiful board.
It does look very
and
nice.
This is basically on our list because Danny Garcia has had a lot of games released in this year and last.
That we've enjoyed. Yeah.
One of the most recent games that we have covered was Windmill Valley, and De Veer has been putting out hit after hit. So this sounds like a chunky game that I'm really curious to know how things are implemented and what all of this beautifuless has to do with the game, as well as what Steam has to do with it, I guess.
Yeah,
but that's essentially it. That is our number 10, Daitoshi.
Yes, going into number 9 over here, this is a game, or actually 2 games designed by Sashi from Sashi and Sashi. We have Bus and Stop, as well as 1 a.m. Jailbreak. So the reason why I kind of put these 2 together is because these are tiny little games, small little card games, which Sashi and Sashi is definitely known for.
And also because I feel like if there's any Sashi and Sashi games that are on the preview list, Naveen is going to automatically put them on our top 10.
Yeah.
So he felt like bundling them. And actually, Naveen is actually growing a secret collection of Sashi and Sashi games.
I'm trying to hoard and collect every single one that I can get my hand on.
We have a cubby in our collection that is just Sashi and Sashi. I don't know if we've ever told people this before.
Yeah, I wish we could cover a lot of them on the channel, but most of them play, or a lot of them play really well 3 and up.
Yeah, that is true.
Because there's several trick-taking style games that I would rather play at a full 4.
Yeah, and if you've never heard of Sashi and Sashi before, they are a designer and publisher, I think, from Japan.
Yep.
And they've released games such as Let's Make a Bus Route, which is the very first Sashi and Sashi game that we've ever played.
Come Sail Away was the big one.
Well, Let's Make a Bus Route has been republished in North America. as Get On Board. So you
Right.
may have played Get On Board, either of the 2 iterations that are currently released. Most recently, they've released Come Sail Away,
Yep.
Newsboys.
Newsboys, which is one that that's one that I need to find. And then also Blend Coffee Lab is one.
Photograph / Wind the
Photograph,
Film, which
yep.
is a game that I love.
really
So there
enjoy
are
that
a
one.
lot of titles by Sashi and Sashi.
Yeah, so 1 a.m. Jailbreak. I think it's a card game. You're trying to break out of prison at 1 a.m. and not get caught by the guards.
Yes, you have a hand of prisoners.
Yeah.
And you're trying to help them break out of jail
Yeah.
by shedding your hand. It almost sounds like Scout in the way that you play out cards, because you can basically play out cards in a sequence or several of the same number in sort of a ladder climbing style. But there is a little twist to it that is specific to this game. So I'm very curious as to how it plays.
And the other one is called Bus and Stop. And like we said, Sashi and Sashi, they are almost obsessed with buses and bus stops.
I mean, I think it's just let's make a bus stop. I don't know how many other games.
Well, no, there's also like the dice version of it. I believe there's 2 different versions that Sashi and Sashi have. For it. So this is kind of the 3rd iteration of it. This one only plays in about 15 minutes. Obviously, we don't know too much about it, so hopefully we can get our hands on it.
It's a card game where you're trying to deliver passengers to their destinations, and there's something along the lines of matching certain passengers depending on their type and scoring points that way. But yes, like Naveen said, we don't know too much about it.
So that is our number 9, Bus and Stop, as well as 1 a.m. Jailbreak.
All right, moving on to number 8. So this is another game that is on this list because of the theme. And it is called Inferno. This is published by Red Mojo, I believe. And if you're familiar with Dante's Inferno, that's what the theme of this game is. I mean, if you look at the box art, it just screams Dante's Inferno.
Oh, yeah.
I was really into classic literature a long time ago. I'm not anymore, but I've read a lot of these books.
I haven't. Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
Naveen is not a reader, but
I want to know the stories.
Well, this is a book. The reason why I read this is because we studied it
Yeah.
in college, so we kind of had to read it. But it was really interesting, a bit dry, very interesting. And this game is themed around it. So in this game, it is a soul management game. If you're not familiar with the novel, it's basically going through the different depths or layers of hell. And in this game, you're trying to expose and guide sinners to their respective circles in hell. So that's the extent that I know. It looks big and it looks really beautiful, actually.
yeah.
And it's very intriguing. I am very curious to know how the game plays.
Yeah, the box art does not quite translate to the Euro look of the game that's in the images that we see online.
Yeah.
But knowing that it's based off of this story, which, by the way, we looked it up before this. Dante's Inferno was authored back in the 1300s.
The Divine Comedy.
The Divine Comedy, yeah.
Yes.
So
Different time. These were
Different
different
time.
people who
Yeah.
had different
Concerns,
concerns
worries.
about life.
Yeah.
So you can relive those concerns in a board game
In a board game,
adaptation.
yeah.
That is our number 8, Inferno.
Yes. Okay, moving on to our number 7 game. This is another one that can play up to 2 players, so
Yes.
it's definitely on our list. This is designed by Isra C. and Shay S. These are designers of games such as The Red Cathedral as well as The White Castle, which are 2 games that we really enjoyed. And this one is called Flatiron. So if you're not familiar with the Flatiron building in New York, it's a very, very iconic, thin triangle-shaped building.
Very strange.
Very strange
That
construction.
they decided
Yeah.
to build a building this shape.
And it seems
right?
like these designers really enjoy making games about constructing buildings. So
Yeah, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like architecture / engineering
Unique
probably
architecture.
has a lot of that kind of strategic,
planning.
you would
Math.
need to
Yeah.
make sure that these buildings are safe,
And
right?
they still stand to this
So
day.
if
Yeah.
you've never heard of the Flatiron Building, you should look it up and see what it looks like, because you'll understand what we mean by a strange shape. And it's actually in between a few streets, which is what plays a role in the game.
Right. So, from our understanding of this game, players are competing as competing companies, where you're going to be taking various cards and placing them on your board, which are going to enhance the various actions in those surrounding streets. And the game actually has what looks like a 3D element to it, where you're actually going to be constructing
The Flatiron building.
Flatiron building. So, really, really interested in seeing how this one is implemented, especially with the 3D aspect of the game, and seeing if it's kind of a unique puzzle, more in an abstract way, or is it more in a Euro strategy style. So that is our number 7. That is Flatiron.
All right, moving on to number 6. So our number 6 is a game that is coming out from Matthew Dunstan and Brett Gilbert. So we are both very excited because we love games that are designed by them too.
Yeah, when they work together on games, we seem to enjoy most of their designs together.
Yes, and so this is a game called Tree Society. Now, we actually saw this game for the first time at Gen Con, but we didn't get to play it.
Yeah, it was set up on a table in a kind of a meeting room, but nobody was surrounding it. And so we just saw the imaging of it as well as the names of the designers. And we're like, at some point, we need to figure out more about this game.
We need to play this game. So the theme sounded really interesting because we are basically building a new society amongst the trees. So we need to work together in order to construct guilds. At the heart of it, it is a card game. And so I believe the way that the game works is on your turn, you're going to play a card from your hand in order to gain resources. But the amount of resources that you gain depends on the card that you played and how many of those cards are showing around the table.
Right.
And then you're going to use those resources in order to construct guilds. And that is the main part, the main scoring part of the game. And these guilds are going to unlock certain abilities or benefits that are specific to you.
So it's not cooperative, even though we kind of mentioned that you work together. It's just because other people's cards that are exposed that they have in front of them can dictate how many of the particular type of resource you're going to actually acquire on your turn.
Right. So I'm interested in seeing how that player interaction works. And, you know, with Matthew Dunstan and Brett Gilbert, there's always some sort of interesting aspect of the game that makes you go, huh.
Yeah.
And it's always usually a quicker style game. Like these aren't like super heavy.
They're not super dense.
Games. They're usually on the lighter side, but we're typically very intrigued by them. And so that was our number 6, Tree Society.
Yes. Moving on to number 5 on our list. This is designed by Herman Milan and published by Ludonova, and it's a game called Men Nefer. So this game takes place in ancient Egypt, and you're going to be doing a lot of the things as you would imagine people in ancient Egypt were doing.
Yes.
So you're going to be trying to construct the Great Pyramids, making offerings to the gods, trading along the Nile, as well as embalming the nobles. In this game, it seems to be a worker placement and tile drafting style game that plays in about 60 to 120 minutes. And like most Euro-style games, this plays up to 4 players.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. The game is played over 3 eras, and just that combination of worker placement and tile drafting, it sounds like one of those games where you can't do it all. You know, you're going to have to choose which aspects of Egyptian society, I suppose, around that time is going to be most important to you. And the BGG listing was mentioning the sort of historical backdrop of the title, that this was, at its time, the most populous city in the world. And so, you know, I'm assuming a lot had to go on in this city in order to keep it bustling. And that sounds like is what you're going to be doing.
So that is our number 5. That is Men Nefer.
All right, moving on to our number 4. This is the Uwe Rosenberg game that we have on our list. And it's actually designed by 2 designers. It's Uwe Rosenberg as well as Tito Lorenz. And it is called Black Forest. Or The Black Forest?
Black Forest.
Black Forest.
Just
There's
Black
no
Forest,
the.
yeah.
So this sounds like a future take, I guess, on the Glass Road, because it's bringing back the resource wheel. You know, we did a whole Uwe Rosenberg series. We played through a ton of Uwe Rosenberg's games.
Most of them, yeah.
Yes, including Glass Road. And it is a game that I enjoyed. It has some tight scoring. You know, the scoring is all about building these buildings, which in order to build, you'll need to have these resources. And so the resource wheel was a really big aspect of that game.
A vital part of the game, yeah.
And it is being brought back in Black Forest.
Yeah, we kind of saw it a little bit in Oranienburger Canal as well. Yeah.
Speaking of Oranienburg Canal, by the way, this is a bit of a tangent. There is a game on the list called Canal. And when we saw it, we were like, what is this now?
Yeah. I think it's just a redo of Oranienburger Canal. I think another company picked it up.
Okay.
And it has new art. At least the box art was very different. Yeah.
Okay. I loved Oranienburg Canal. Like, really that is like Euro crunchy 2-player goodness. So back to Black Forest. This has differences though with the Glass Road. Like the Glass Road was card play.
By the way, it's just Glass Road.
I can't catch the
Glass. You really want to put the in all these games.
I omit them and I add the. So Glass Road, Black Forest. In Glass Road, you're choosing your actions via cards, and there is an aspect to the game where if you play a card that somebody else has already chosen for the round, then you can't do as many things, and vice versa. In this game, I believe it's worker placement. So that aspect of the game is not even a part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how it's implemented and which version we'd prefer.
Yeah, it's not a re-implementation, but I think it's the one that you can just say is the most like his other designs.
Right. But I'm very curious to see Tito Lorenz's take on all of the Uwe Rosenberg mechanics. And that was our number 4, Black Forest.
Yeah, so that was an Uwe Rosenberg entry. Of course, we did the Uwe Rosenberg series. Number 3 on our list, this is a Vladimir Suhi game that's coming out. It is called Risafa, designed by, of course, Vladimir Suhi. We just started our Suhi series, so if you are interested in the first game in that, that is Shipyard, which I'll link up here if you want to check that out. So in this one, we are taking on the roles of merchants in the ancient Middle East, where we are going to be trying to buy and sell goods on business trips. We're also going to be trying to get water to the local communities and try to build up the different infrastructure in Risafa.
Right. It sounds like we're trying to help out in lots of different areas of society. You know, in this area at the time, there was no local sources of water. They had to really depend on large cisterns. And so we are going to be helping build those as well. We're also going to build workshops. We're going to construct gardens. But the game is played over 6 rounds. And each round, you only have 3 actions. So it sounds like a very tight, strategically tight game, which is...
Sounds like another one of those, like you see all the different options and you can't do it all.
You have to be efficient. You have to kind of choose a route that you feel like is going to be the most lucrative, is what we're assuming.
Yeah, so of course, Vladimir Suhi, we are going to be trying to play through as many of his games that we can get our hands on. So this one is another one that we have to add to the list. So hopefully we can catch up to it before his next releases next year.
So many games, not enough time.
Yeah, that's number 3, Vladimir Suhi's Risafa.
All right, moving on to our penultimate entry on the list. This is our number 2. It is a game called SETI.
Yes.
Search
for intelligent...
Search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
There you go.
Yeah. This is a game that is published by CGE. It's their large release for the year. And in this game, which is actually based off of real science, we are trying to look for any signs of extraterrestrial life forms on other planets and moons. And the way that we're doing it is by sending out probes. It is a large sort of 4-layered board. And we were actually sort of demoed it a little bit at Gen Con. And at Gen Con, we learned that it is not a deduction game.
Not a deduction game, which is something I thought it was.
Yes, Naveen was like, deduction, right?
I think it's because it's got that close to Search for Planet X, Search for Extraterrestrial.
It's not deduction. Okay. It's a large, heavy, sort of meaty game about sending out your probes and trying to detect life forms.
Yeah, I think there's like an interesting aspect of the game where the planet rotates, and so depending on the sunlight and kind of the darkness and night, you can see different things, and you have access to different actions depending on the way the sun rotates or the way the Earth rotates around the sun.
Yeah, we are clearly not astrophysicists or scientists or anybody who knows any knowledge about how these things work, but the game was inspired by these real things. So gameplay-wise, I'm also intrigued because apparently the game uses multi-use cards, and that is something that I really, really love in games. I love to even just see how it's implemented. I feel like we don't see enough of them anymore.
Yeah, I really like when multi-use cards are in play because it's like, I want to use this for its resource, but if I could use it here for this action, then it would be so much better. But now I'm kind of split on just that one decision to make the next decisions.
Right. And that is a strategic consideration on its own. Just the fact that it's multi-use already gives you this like, I have to sort of balance or weigh what I'm going to do with the cards, right? And so there you go. That was our number 2, a game that we definitely want to play and talk about, and it is called SETI.
Yes.
Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
That's it. Okay, so we are now on our final pick, the number 1 game that is most anticipated for Essen Spiel 2024.
We are super excited about this game. The first time we heard about it was at Gen Con, and we didn't mention it earlier, but we both have had input on all of the games on this list.
Yes, so it's a combined list, obviously. Yep.
Both of our number 1s.
So this one, let's see if I can get it right. This is called The Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth.
You got it.
Did I nail it? All right.
You got it.
A lot of words there.
That's a lot of words.
A lot of words. So this is going to be from Repos Productions, and it's designed by Bruno Cathala and Antoine Bauza. And this is a re-implementation or a new take on Seven Wonders Duel, which is a game that Monique and I really, really enjoy. Still have it in our collection. We have the expansions, and we really like to pull it off the shelf and play it a lot.
Seven Wonders was one of the games that got us into the hobby. I mean, around the time that Seven Wonders was released, everybody was like, wow, best game, Seven Wonders.
I still love that game. Yeah.
And then Seven Wonders Duel came out. And besides the fact that you have to set everything up, and it's kind of a thing.
A little bit
That's
of a pain.
definitely a thing.
A little pain. Yeah.
But I really, really loved Seven Wonders Duel more so than the original game.
Yeah, well, I mean, because regular Seven Wonders, I think it says you can play 2 to 7, but that's a game like you want to play 4 for a
play
higher.
that too?
I think maybe
It's definitely a higher
It's
player
a higher
count
player
game.
count
So
game.
the Seven Wonders Duel had aspects of Seven Wonders in a nice, very high tension, two-player only game.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see from our list, we love crunchy two-player games that
It's the
are
player
sort of
count we play the most.
dueling style.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, naturally it's a player count, and also just because of what it makes you do, how it makes you think, and how high the tension can be.
Yeah.
And so this is it's not just a reimplementation. Like, it is a reimplementation.
It's a redesign
but
of
it's
it.
not just a retheming.
Right.
They have changed certain aspects of the original gameplay and added some aspects to make it specifically Lord of the Rings.
So in this game, one player is going to be taking on the roles of the Fellowship, trying to get the ring and throw it into Mount Doom, while the other player is going to be playing as Sauron and their Nazgul forces, trying to catch the Fellowship and avoid them, prevent them from doing those things, essentially killing them. So in this game, there's a little bit of difference. Instead of the war track being kind of a tug of war in Seven Wonders Duel, this one has kind of this...
it has a military presence board.
Yes.
Where you are trying to control all the locations on this board.
Correct.
And if you are able to do so, then you immediately win.
There's that.
So one of the reasons why Seven Wonders Duel has a lot of tension is because there are several aspects to the game that cause immediate victories. And you always have to be mindful of those things. Like, you can get to the end of the game and just win via points. Or you can win via these immediate victories.
The military track is one of them. In this game, there's now a hunt track. So one person is going to have kind of their Nazgul forces chasing down the Fellowship, and you're trying to capture them. If you do that, then the Sauron forces or the Nazgul win.
Yeah, and I was sort of looking up pictures online, and it looks like the track was specifically made so that the people at the front,
The
are
Fellowship?
they
The Fellowship,
Fellowship?
yeah.
The Fellowship can never really outrun
Correct.
the Nazgul
I gotcha.
forces.
Yep.
They are always going to be running in tandem, or the gap closes because of the way that the components are structured. Sorry, Naveen loves Lord of the Rings.
I like Lord of the Rings.
I like Lord of the Rings.
Monique tolerates it.
No. I really enjoy Lord of the Rings. I just can't remember the names and
They're hobbits.
places. Yes, but I really
hobbits.
do enjoy the story.
Yeah.
But I really love Seven Wonders Duel, and that is why this combination exists as our number one.
Yep.
So I'm really intrigued by it. Everybody who's played it so far has said that they like it better than the original Seven Wonders, which is very interesting to me.
It's good to know.
But from what I understand, it still has that construction of the cards.
It's hard to, it just kind of is what
It's
it
a
is
big
on that.
aspect of the game.
Yeah. So that is our number one most anticipated game of Essen Spiel 2024, the Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth.
Yes, and that is essentially all 15 titles, although we probably spoke about 20-something games today. But there you go. For anybody who is attending Essen Spiel, or even if you're not, we would love to know what your picks would be. And if you are definitely going, we hope you have a wonderful time. We hope you have a safe trip, because you're probably already on your way there.
Sure.
And please let us know what you end up getting and playing, and what we should look out for. Because the thing about Essen Spiel is, if you live in other countries, sometimes those games never arrive.
Yeah,
So-
games that you were like, I wish I could get that game. I'll just wait until it comes to the U.S. Just never comes to the U.S.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that is kind of the nature of the industry.
Yes, it is what it is, and we are particularly spoiled here.
Yeah,
Anyway,
in the
so it's
US.
really not a complaint. Otherwise, stay tuned for a lot of content that's coming out on our channel this month.
Yep.
We're going to be featuring some Halloween-themed-ish, more like fantasy, spooky
yeah.
playthroughs towards the latter half of the month.
Sure.
And otherwise, please let us know what games you've been playing. And again, thank you so much to Hit Point Press for sponsoring this video.
Thank you all so much for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please consider subscribing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.